What's up, YouTube family? This is Sam from the B Bunch family, and welcome back to my channel. Sorry I've been gone for a little bit. I know I didn't post last week, and it's been a little crazy. So I'm just, I took some feedback that I got from the channel, and I'm revamping it just a little bit. So you'll be seeing some new names on the channel, as well as slightly tweaked content, to try and drive, more engagement and really see what y'all want to see. So hopefully that's something you'll be looking forward to. Before we begin, we do have a special guest. This is my daughter Anna. It is her feeding time at this time as I record this, and so if you see this little bobby curly thing on the bottom, that's why. So today's video, I wanted to talk specifically about the first week back in the classroom after Regents Week. January Regents are a time where it's like a mid-year point where we get to see, unfortunately, students who have repeated courses, that they didn't do so well in the previous year. They get another shot at the Regents a little bit earlier if they weren't successful in the summer either. So that would actually, this point served. And it also, and in some schools, like mine, we do midterms week, which is a gift and a curse. Let's be real. It's a gift and a curse because usually, in my experience over the years, Regents Week was meant for just Regents, and that means the rest of the time, the staff and teachers used their off time to catch up on curriculum planning, and any other, and basically setting up for the next few months, so there wasn't as much craziness moving on, especially with, St. Patrick's Day, Valentine's dances that come up, proms, graduation, and all that other stuff. Everything starts to fly out the window. Testing for L's, you know what the struggle's like, right? So there's just a lot going on. So gift, of having midterms week, you get to see, and Regents, you get to see what students did well, how much they've learned. You get to see like a nice little measure. And those of you who are up for tenure, that kind of sets up your portfolio for a nice little projection shot to see where you truly land, how you're doing, and then how your students are doing, and then you can go from there. Curse, like I said, you don't get time to catch up. You're constantly trying to hold your head above water, and that's not always it gets really difficult to settle back in and try to push yourself ahead, even by like a day of a lesson planning. So the first week back has been a little bit crazy. Some students were dropped, some students were added in, and then some students, took, oh, this is my 1 week vacation. So some of them haven't really transitioned well, back into the classroom. So some are still a little bit, let's say eccentric, for lack of a better word. And that doesn't just mean students. I say students a lot because, that's what the job is, and they're so fun to be around. But then there's, like staff, and sometimes you want to mingle with one another, and then, because of what's going on, you can't. And then, it just becomes a lot. So one of the things I would definitely recommend, coming out of Regents Week, is definitely try to, well, first, if you do have some downtime, and by downtime I mean maybe like an hour, no more than 2, and that's asking a lot, especially in that time. If you don't get that kind of free time that I just mentioned a little while ago, to at least get a couple of days ahead, in your lessons. That way you're not constantly scrambling. This is especially for teachers who are teaching new content, first year teachers, or teachers who are still getting their feet wet. It's really important to get that stuff done ahead of schedule. And if you're in ICT rooms, oh, by the way, if you don't know what ICT means, integrated co-teaching, if you're in those kind of classrooms and you need to work together to make sure you get the work is split, but making sure that you're both ahead in both of your class loads, because if you don't, then you'll both wind up, unfortunately, like indirectly wind up taking stresses out on one another when you should be trying to communicate. And and sometimes you indirectly like check out when you really shouldn't be. You should try to always communicate. you should always try to communicate with one another, so to make sure that you're on the same page. And I'm not saying you necessarily have to they have to know all of your business, but what I do have to recommend is that the better the bond that you have with your colleague who maintains professionalism, the easier it will be, because that means you'll have each other's backs, and you'll know, like, no one's making excuses for anything. If something's not done, it's just because genuinely there are other circumstances that are popping up that might take precedence, and that's not really what you want. So definitely, try to get some of those lessons done. And if you're kind of like really well prepared and you have all your grades done, and the software at school is not giving you problems and all the copy machines are working, then one thing I definitely recommend to do coming out of Regents Week, if you have the time and some patience, when you leave the building, leave it all there and go hang out with some colleagues. If some I've been at a few schools, and I'll be honest, I'm gonna say out of all of them, one of them was very, very tight knit, regardless of where anybody's background was or gender identity. It did not matter. We were colleagues. Trivia night was always a thing. We'd go out for drinks at a local bar, and and you don't even have to drink alcohol. It could literally just be have a drink, quite literally as what it is. And you see this different side of the colleague that you think be just on one side, and in reality it's like, oh snap. So something to think about, because the more lasting and strong relationships you have, not just with someone you may work closely with in one department, it's good to have tight knits across the board, because you're in this together. As one colleague tells me every day, like, another day in paradise, another day, another scholar. And I think that instead of another day, another dollar. So actually, I think that's a really good flip side to look at. So just some food for thought. Last thing I'll recommend, definitely coming out of Regents Week, is look, if you have the ability, because not every school does, if you have the ability to get those scores of those Regents exams, actually try to utilize that, and for the repeaters and some students who may have taken it for the first time offhand, look at how they performed on some of those questions, on the test in general. But then when you actually see a breakdown of what's going on, what questions they really got stuck in, just create like a simple do now question, or like a review session for the class. So like, hey, I noticed that this is a really popular Regents question. You're not putting that one student who got that low score on that question wrong, but make sure that that student or those particular students are in class for that review that day. Just have fun with it. Make it a Regents Day. Make it and by Regents Day I mean like have review questions, have some PBL, project-based learning activity. Something that incorporates this kind of topic that will basically force them to want to engage with it. I think that will really help push the boundary a little bit further and give you some nice little extra activities to do. So I'm gonna wrap it up here, but thank you so much for listening. This is Sam from the B Bunch family. If you are interested in marriage vlogs, dating advice, infertility, adoption, and so much more, or seeing little baby, and also you can check out my family's YouTube channel on the link down below. It'll also be in the card above. And we're open to all feedback. Shoot us a comment. Drop us a topic that you might be interested in, or you want to provide some basic feedback. We really appreciate it. We've been getting a lot of positive feedback from the community about what they like to see. the views are really coming up, and we actually are very appreciative and thankful for what you all have to say, and yeah, and thankful that you all are sharing the videos as much as you are doing. Please don't hesitate to subscribe, help us out. That really goes out a long way. Really appreciate it. Thanks again. This is Sam from the B Bunch family, and we're out.